CPI numbers came out in the US there yesterday. If you Ed, what was the reaction in the market? What happened? What did people say?
Okay, so let's review a couple things real quickly. So I'm going to do a quick, I hope I get this right. So I'm going to bring up a little overlay here, just to remind people where we stand with inflation. So this is the history of the U.S. inflation rate in the timeline since January of 21. So we started back there at 1.4, and of course 2.6. Of course, right around here is where, it's just transitory. It's not going to be around very long. Right? 6.8, 7.9, and they hit a high of 9% this time last year. So last June, and then now we're at 5%. Now, okay, take the numbers for whatever they're worth, right? If you tell me in the comment section, do you think inflation is really at 5%? I mean, I personally don't, but that's a separate. But let's go ahead and use these official numbers just for sake of argument. Now, the official Fed's fund rate is supposed to be 2%, right? So this is supposed to be. How do I get out of this? So if the target rate for the Fed is 2%, they got a long ways to go. So let's talk about what happened today with the CPI. And I thought at the last minute about talking about this because it is relevant. It is important. It is part of the overall story that we've been talking about now for weeks. All right, so I'm going to do another screen share now. So bear with me a second. Present screen share. I'm going to get better at this, people, I promise.
You'll get there. You'll get there. Keep going.
All right, here we go. All right. Okay, so this is out of zero hedge. Now we can see that the Fed's new favorite signal from the BLS is the core services CPI. That's minus shelter. Okay, this is what these guys do. They pick and choose.
They're changing history by changing the definitions, man. Stop it.
That's right. But even okay, so according to government numbers, let's say okay, so came in at 0.4% month over month, and then year over year 4.9%, a little bit less. All right, now look at this graph here. I want to. There's a couple of lessons here that I want to kind of give you guys a little bit of financial education, a little bit of peek behind the financial curtain, what they think about on Wall Street, right? Now, Wall Street is a little bit weird. Okay, it thinks that it takes what is normally you would think would be good news and it's bad news. So there are times on Wall Street when bad news is good news and when good news is bad news. Right. So
sounds like a PR spin that any news is good news, good or bad. It doesn't matter.
well, I'm telling you the way traders think. I'm telling you that this is the way Wall Street thinks, and it is a little weird, but you have to learn. But there is some logic behind it, and you got to kind of know the game. So I'm giving you guys a little peek into Wall Street logic. All right, now stay with me here. Now, the Federal Reserve's primary job, as we know, is supposed to be to fight inflation. The primary tool to do that is to raise interest rates. And the idea behind raising rates is literally to make our lives miserable. That's their job. They want to get us to stop spending money. So that's what raising rates is supposed to do. It's supposed to have that effect. It's supposed to make it more expensive for you to buy that house, buy that car, just live your life. So the process of raising rates is an intentional impoverishment of the people. So they're intentionally trying to make your life difficult. So when there's good news, when CPI is up, that means people are spending money, right? They're buying stuff. They're not slowing down at all. That's not good. They want you to slow down. So whereas you would think, this is good. Everyone's doing well. The economy is strong. The Fed is thinking that this is not good. It's overheating. We have to slow you down. So if Wall Street likes lower rates, so when they see that the CPI is coming down a little bit, okay, that's bad news for the average person. Okay, economy slowing down a little bit, but Wall Street is thinking, okay, well that's good news for us because that makes it less likely for the Federal Reserve to continue their rate hiking. Okay. So Wall Street wants as easy money as possible. So the idea that the Federal Reserve might have an excuse now to stop raising rates, Wall Street sees that as a positive sign. So you would think that the market would be rallying in the face of this. Okay, so what I'm trying to illustrate here is the idea that bad news isn't always bad news, And good news isn't always good news from a Wall Street perspective at any given point in time. And it all depends on what you're comparing it to. Now, Wall Street is a discounting mechanism, right? It always looks 6 months, a year down the road. It wants to be early. So Wall Street is always reading the tea leaves. It's always trying to guess what's going to happen because they want to be in first, right? They want to be the first guy in. So they're trying to anticipate what's coming down the road. So a lot of this, but there is kind of a group thing here. There is kind of a consensus going on. Now, one of the edisms that were out there when I taught my course is that the market is always right. Never argue with the market. You might have an opinion about something, and it might be a very well-founded decision, and it might be backed by all sorts of academics. But in the end, the only thing that matters is whether your stock, your bond, your whatever you're in is going up or down, and you're on the right side of it. That's the only thing that matters. And what makes the markets go up and down is buying pressure. That's it. So I'm getting there, guys. So just stay with me here. So what you always want to do is you want to look at the market's reaction. It's never about the news. This is another edism, by the way. It's never the news. It's the reaction to the news. The news is almost irrelevant. So even though I just gave you a long explanation of how good news is, bad news, and I told you, well, relative to the CPI, this was, okay, that's all kind of good to know in the background. But in the end, what's most important is the reaction to the news. And there's another edism called the theory of relativity. And I came up with this one on my own. The theory of relativity in the markets. And that states that when a stock or the market or anything reacts the opposite way that it should react, that makes that move even more important. What I mean by that is, for example, let's say that a company comes out after the market closes with really good earnings news. Okay, this spectacular news. So that stock should be going up on that news, right? But instead, it doesn't go up, or it goes up a little bit, or it goes down. Well, if the stock goes down in the face of good news, that tells you the top is in. Because if it won't go up on good news, imagine what it'll do when it has bad news. Okay, so the news, and same in reverse. If a company comes out with what you would consider bad news, but the stock goes up, that tells you that everyone who wanted to sell that stock has already sold it. It's bottomed. So you got to learn to think of things a little bit differently, right? So the reaction to the news is what's important, not the news itself. The news itself, yeah, take a look at it, okay. But what's really important is the reaction to the news. And don't think that you know more than the market does. The market is always right. If you argue with the market, you're going to be humbled really quickly, okay? You're going to lose that argument every time. So look at what the market's telling you. So having said that, what is the market doing today? Let me bring up a chart. First I gotta bring it up, then I'll share it.
While you're doing that, Ed,
Yeah.
I just want to offer a comment there on what you said, because the whole time I've known you is you've always said that the markets are based on people and the decisions that people make. So when I listen to the unspoken truth between your 30 years of Wall Street wisdom there, one thing that I'm hearing is it doesn't matter what the media pundit comes out and says. It doesn't matter what the government says, whether it's good news or bad news. All that matters is the reaction to the market. But those people are smart enough to know that in the past, when they've come out and perpetuated good or bad news, the market will react in a certain way. So essentially what those people are doing is manipulating the market in the direction that they want it to be manipulated. And that shows you how they're in complete and total control of the economy.
Yeah, and that's more effective, of course. The smaller the vehicle, whether it's easier to do that with a small stock than it is with a large stock, right? Because if you're talking about a large stock and you want to influence it, well, you're one voice among many voices who are covering that particular guy, so you can be lost in the crowd. But if it's a random little stock that nobody really covers very much, that's where most manipulation goes on, because there aren't many people following it, so your voice is louder, so you can affect it more. That's true. So if a respected Wall Street analyst goes on Wall Street and says something that could affect the market, that's one thing. If I went on CNBC, no one knows who the hell I am. My opinion isn't going to affect the market, right? So there are degrees to that.
Well, that was on full display for all of us to see recently when the numbers came out for the US economy, and they said, oh, we're in recession. And then they came out and said, no, that's technically a recession. It's not that. That's not a recession. The recession's that. And it's like, hey, listen here, you socialist, fascist, fucking dickhead, that you can't go changing the dictionary to suit your narrative. Yet they changed the dictionary to suit the narrative. And now they come out and say, well, it's not going to be a soft landing towards the end of the year. We might be in a recession. And then yesterday you say that 50% of 722 banks, or they've got more than 50% asset losses that are unrealized on their books. And you think, well, how are they going to spin this? Otherwise known as government spin. So